So this is from The Snowman. And this is just 3 lines of the poem that just like get me. For the listener who listens in the snow and nothing himself beholds, nothing that is not there and the nothing that is. Okay, so this is from a poem called The Well-Dressed Man with a Beard. After the final no, there comes a yes. And on that yes, the future world depends. No was the night. Yes is the present sun. This poem is called From Blossoms. From blossoms comes this brown paper bag of peaches we bought from the joy at the bend in the road where we turned toward signs painted peaches. From laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship in the bins, comes nectar at the roadside, succulent peaches we devour, dusty skin and all, comes the familiar dust of summer, dust we eat. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard, to eat not only the skin, but the shade, not only the sugar, but the days, to hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, then bite into the round jubilance of peach. There are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to impossible blossom, to sweet impossible blossom. A primer. I remember Michigan fondly as the place I go to be in Michigan. The right hand of America waving from maps, or the left pressing into clay a mold to take home from kindergarten to mother. I lived in Michigan 43 years. The state bird is a chained factory gate. The state flower is Lake Superior, which sounds egotistical, though it is merely cold and deep as truth. A Midwesterner can use the word truth, can sincerely use the word sincere. In truth, the Midwest is not mid or west. When I go back to Michigan, I drive through Ohio. There is off I-75 in Ohio a mosque, so life goes corn, 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 mosque. I wave at Islam when we're not getting along with on account of the towers as I pass. Then Ohio goes corn, 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 billboard, goodbye, Islam. You never forget how to be from Michigan when you're from Michigan. It's like riding a bike of ice and fly fishing. The Upper Peninsula is a spare state in case Michigan goes flat. I live now in Virginia, which has no backup plan, but is named the same name as my mother. I live in my mother again, which is creepy. But so is what the skin under my chin is doing. Suddenly there's a pouch like marsupials are needed. The state joy is spring. Osiris, we beseech thee, rise and give us baseball, is how we might sound were we Egyptian in April when February hasn't ended. February is 13 months long in Michigan. We are a people who by February want to kill the sky for being so gray and angry at us. What did we do is the state motto. There's a day in May when we're all tumblers, gymnastics is everywhere, and daffodils are asked by young men to be their wives. When a man elopes with a daffodil, you know where he's from. In this way I have given you a primer. Let us all be from somewhere. Let us tell each other everything we can. So can I read this poem to you?
Please, yes.
Okay, so it's called For the Dead. I dreamed I called you on the telephone to say, be kinder to yourself. But you were sick and would not answer. The waste of my love goes on this way, trying to save you from yourself. I have always wondered about the leftover energy, the way water goes rushing down a hill long after the rains have stopped, or the fire you want to go to bed from but cannot leave, burning down but not burnt down, the red coals more extreme, more curious in their flashing and dying than you wish they were, sitting long after midnight. So here's a poem.
Yes.
It's from his book Lunch Poems, which came out in 1964. It was published by City Lights, which is the same publisher that published Howl by Allen Ginsberg.
Okay.
It's called Steps. I'm going to read it.
I look forward to it.
How funny you are today, New York, like Ginger Rogers in Swing Time, and St. Bridget's steeple leaning a little to the left. Here I have just jumped out of a bed full of V-days. I got tired of D-days. And blue you there still accepts me foolish and free. All I want is a room up there and you in it. And even the traffic halt so thick is a way for people to rub up against each other. And when their surgical appliances lock, they stay together for the rest of the day. What a day. I go by to check a slide and I say that painting's not so blue. Where's Lana Turner? She's out eating and Garbo's backstage at the Met. Everyone's taking their coat off so they can show a rib cage to the rib watchers. And the park's full of dancers with their tights and shoes in little bags who are often mistaken for worker-outers at the West Side Y. Why not? The Pittsburgh Pirates shout because they won, and in a sense, we're all winning. We're alive. The apartment was vacated by a gay couple who moved to the country for fun. They moved a day too soon. Even the stabbings are helping the population explosion, though in the wrong country. And all those liars have left the UN. The Seagram's building's no longer rivaled in interest. Not that we need liquor. We just like it. And the little box is out on the sidewalk next to the delicatessen, so the old man can sit on it and drink beer and get knocked off it by his wife later in the day while the sun is still shining. Oh God, it's wonderful to get out of bed and drink too much coffee and smoke too many cigarettes and love you so much.
Thank you for saying thank you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a really great poem.
I'm excited by how excited you are about it.
All right, I'm starting the poem now, and I'm saying that because it's going to start, and you're not going to believe that it started.
Okay, hold on, but is this the Is this the poem? Okay.
I'm starting now. This is a totally accessible poem. There is nothing in this poem that is in any way difficult to understand. All the words are simple and to the point. There are no new concepts, no theories, no ideas to confuse you. This poem has no intellectual pretensions. It is purely emotional. It fully expresses the feelings of the author, my feelings, the person speaking to you now. It is all about communication, heart to heart. This poem appreciates and values you as a reader. It celebrates the triumph of human imagination amidst pitfalls and calamities. This poem has 90 lines, 269 words, and more syllables than I have time to count. Each line, word, and syllable have been chosen to convey only the intended meaning and nothing more. This poem abjures obscurity and enigma. There is nothing hidden. 100 readers would each read the poem in an identical manner and derive the same message from it. This poem, like all good poems, tells a story in a direct style that never leaves the reader guessing. While at times expressing bitterness, anger, resentment, xenophobia, and hints of racism, its ultimate mood is affirmative. It finds joy even in those spiteful moments of life that it shares with you. This poem represents the hope for a poetry that doesn't turn its back on the audience, that doesn't think it's better than the reader, that is committed to poetry as a popular form, like kite flying and fly fishing. This poem belongs to no school, has no dogma, it follows no fashion. It says just what it says, it's real. So I thought I would share something I've written.
Hell yes.
And
like a recent one or like from school?
No, this is an old one.
Okay.
My damp face follows the hollow vein of the wing. Summer stokes the insect. I speak the hum of her motion. In tempered flight and fold, the fly cuts an upward bend, stretches her lenses to land, senses in her legs to land again. To settle on your ear, itself all bend in strength, a curved pail for collecting, a sense for sound, for balance. And behind the sound, the fly finds her branch in bent channels, a strength within the most delicate skin around a middle of spun air. The poem I wanted to read is called I Am Offering This Poem.
Okay.
It's very nice.
I'm excited to hear it. I could use a nice poem.
I am offering this poem to you since I have nothing else to give. Keep it like a warm coat when winter comes to cover you, or like a pair of thick socks that cold cannot bite through. I love you. I have nothing else to give you, So it is a pot full of yellow corn to warm your belly in winter. It is a scarf for your head to wear over your hair, to tie up around your face. I love you. Keep it. Treasure this as you would if you were lost, needing direction in the wilderness. Life becomes when mature. And in the corner of your drawer, tucked away like a cabin or hogan in dense trees, come knocking, and I will answer, give you directions, and let you warm yourself by this fire. Rest by this fire and make you feel safe. I love you. It's all I have to give, and all anyone needs to live, and to go on living inside when the world outside no longer cares if you live or die. Remember, I love you. When Bill Clinton was inaugurated, she read the poem there during his inauguration. And actually, I have the last few lines of it if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's really recognizable. I don't know if you'll remember. The poem was called On the Pulse of Morning. It was this very long, sweeping poem about like the rock and the river and the animals and coming together across the earth. And then at the very end, the last stanza was, here on the pulse of this new day, you may have the grace to look up and out and into your sister's eyes, into your brother's face, your country, and say simply, very simply, with hope, good morning. But the poem I was sending around to people yesterday is Still I Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I was sending it around is there's like, it's a poem like all about persistence and courage in the face of adversity. And there are just these great little stanzas in it. And so I wanted to share a few of them. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. And then, so here's how the poem ends. And this is like, I think, universal. And this is like that triumph that I was speaking of. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. So the poem I'm going to read is called Shedding Skin. It was published in her first book, Tree Tall Woman, which came out in 1981. Pulling out of the old scarred skin, old rough thing I don't need now, I strip off, slip out of, and leave behind. I slough off dead scales, flick skin flakes to the ground, shedding toughness, peeling layers down to vulnerable stuff. And I'm blinking off old eyelids for a new way of seeing. By the rock I rub against, I'm going to be tender again.
That was a good poem. The snapping did distract from it a decent amount.
Mm-hmm. The poem is appropriately called Rhyme.
All right. I'm just saying, if you write a song and it was called like music.
So here's the poem. And this is just the first two stanzas. You can find the whole poem if you search for Rhyme by Robert Pinsky on the internet. Air an instrument of the tongue an instrument of the body an instrument of spirit, the spirit a being of the air. A bird the medium of its song a world, a containment like a hotel room, ready for us guests who inherit our compartment of time there.
What is it?
It is a poem called The Swing by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Hey, okay.
How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it the pleasantest thing ever a child can do. Up in the air and over the wall till I can see so wide, rivers and trees and cattle and all over the countryside. Till I look down on the garden green, down on the roof so brown, up in the air I go flying again, up in the air and down. Okay, so everyone is more familiar with William Carlos Williams lately because there's that meme, the plums meme.
I ate your plums. I'm so sorry. They were really good, though. Let
me give you some source material for that one.
Okay.
This is just to say, written in 1934. I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious, so sweet, and so cold. The Red Wheelbarrow, the one I'm going to read next, he wrote when he was 60 years old.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rain water besides the white chickens. It's called When Death Comes. It's very positive.
Okay.
It's a very positive, affirmative poem.
Cool.
When death comes.
Uh-huh.
When death comes like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measles pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what's it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility, and I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy, and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, towards silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom, taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I have made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply having visited this world. And so I wanted to read a little bit from her poem that's called Famous.
Let her rip.
The river is famous to the fish. The loud voice is famous to silence, which knew it would inherit the earth before anybody said so. The cat sleeping on the fence is famous to the birds, watching him from the birdhouse. The tear is famous, briefly, to the cheek. The idea you carry close to your bosom is famous to your bosom. The boot is famous to the earth, more famous than the dress shoe, which is famous only to floors. The bent photograph is famous to the one who carries it, and not at all famous to the one who is pictured. I want to be famous to shuffling men who smile while crossing streets. Sticky children in grocery lines, famous as the one who smiled back. I want to be famous in the way a pulley is famous, or a buttonhole, not because it did anything spectacular, but because it never forgot what it could do.
What's the poem?
The poem, and just a mild content warning, there are some suggestions of abuse, but
Okay.
not described in detail.
Okay.
The poem is called On Hearing My Father Pulled a Shotgun on My Grandparents During Thanksgiving Dinner. And this is from The Air Loss and Breathing, which came out in 2000. All my relatives seated, Llewellyn and her new husband, Aunt Nan and Laura May, Uncle Buddy passing mashed potatoes, toasting God, good food, and the lack of family deaths this year. Everyone flying, driving home for that day when families convene, and I laugh, imagining my father strolling in, uninvited, shotgun on hip, his red hair tangled and cowlicked, beer gut protruding from the hem of his t-shirt, shooting the turkey, and everyone splattered not with blood, but celery, oyster stuffing, droplets of grease. I have always held my father up in one hand, everyone else in the other, as if on a set of scales, and my grandparents, my mother, and I sink while my father floats there weightless and grinning. I refuse to see my father's grief, a wife who divorced him, a daughter who hates him, his liver dissolved, his angular cheeks now pockets of flesh, veined and sallow. I only saw how the nights he didn't come home were a relief to us all. But for once, alone, 1,000 miles from the south, and not part of the argument, I think about my father as a boy, rising at 4:30 to milk cows before school, an ache in his stomach from too little sleep, and on days when he was too sick to get out of his bed, his father, my grandfather, would jerk him up, belt in hand, and he would trudge to the dairy with the crack of a belt echoing in his ears. A young boy with hair shooting out in bright red spirals, his body wiry, pale as cream, perched on a stool, waiting for the sun as his body shook with anger, the sting of leather, the chill of southern dawn, and the only heat came from the cow's moist, noisy breath as he squeezed her udders for milk, formed clouds with his mouth in the dissipating dark. This is called The Village of Reason. This is a glove or a book from a book club. This is the sun or a layer of mud. This is Monday. This is an altered word. This is the village of reason, and this is an eye torn out. This is the father or a number on a chart. This is a substitute. This is the thing you are. This is the varnished picture or else an accepted response. This is the door, and this is the word for door. This is a reflex caused by falling, and this is a prisoner with an orange. This is a name you know, and this is the poison to make you well. This is the mechanism, and this is the shadow of a bridge. This is a curve, and this is its thirst. This is Monday. This is her damaged word. This is the trace, and this the term unmarked. This is the sonnet, and this is the burning house. You are in this play. You are in its landscape. This is an assumption, the length of an arm. This is a poppy. This is an epilogue. And so I found one that is a little complex, but it really stuck with me.
Let's hear it.
It's called Mother and Child. It's from her book, The Seven Ages, which was her 9th book. It came out in 2001. We're all dreamers. We don't know who we are. Some machine made us, machine of the world, the constricting family. Then back to the world, polished by soft whips. We dream, we don't remember. Machine of the family, dark fur, forests of the mother's body, machine of the mother, white city inside her. And before that, earth and water, moss between rocks, pieces of leaves and grass. And before, cells in a great darkness, and before that, the veiled world. This is why you were born, to silence me. Cells of my mother and father, it is your turn to be pivotal, to be the masterpiece. I improvised. I never remembered. Now it's your turn to be driven. You're the one who demands to know. Why do I suffer? Why am I ignorant? Cells in a great darkness. Some machine made us. It is your turn to address it, to go back asking, what am I for? What am I for? So I wanted to give a little bit of a content warning before I read this poem. It's a poem about loss, and specifically her friend, Anne Sexton, that I mentioned earlier, that died by suicide. The poem is called How It Is. The poem is called How It Is. Shall I say how it is in your clothes? A month after your death, I wear your blue jacket. The dog at the center of my life recognizes you've come to visit. He's ecstatic. In the left pocket, a hole. In the right, a parking ticket delivered up last August on Bay State Road. In my heart, a scatter like milkweed, a flinging from the pods of the soul. My skin presses your old outline. It is hot and dry inside. I think of the last day of your life, old friend, how I would unwind it, paste it together in a different collage. Back from the death car idling in the garage, back up the stairs, your praying hands unlaced, reassembling the bits of bread and tuna fish into a ceremony of sandwich, running the home movie backward to a space we could be easy in, a kitchen place with vodka and ice, our words like living meat. Dear friend, you have excited crowds with your example. They swell like wine bags straining at your seams. I will be years gathering up our words, fishing out letters, snapshots, stains, leaning my ribs against this durable cloth to put on the dumb blue blazer of your death. I want to be a little kid again. I'm feeling kind of empty on the low. You should unwind a little now and then. Team Stacy looking like a sleepy hoe. Back to the sunshine state. The devil is a lie. I hate myself a lot sometimes. I mean, possessive, holy shit, this is the second time. I'm always catching dimes. I'm not the only one. I'm pinning this again. I love a windy, sunny day. Not coming out until tonight. I miss the happy me. I gotta find a way. I always fall into the bullshit. Why? Socks on in bed. The devil is a lie. People picking up electric chronic, the balance like a giant tidal wave, never ever feeling supersonic or reaching any very shallow grave. An open space between awaiting speed and looking at divine velocity. A faceless nation under constant need without another curiosity. Or maybe going through the wave equation, an ancient engine offers no momentum. About the power from an old vibration and nothing but a little bit of venom. Surrounded by a sin omega T on the other side of you and me. The poem is called Flirtation. After all, there's no need to say anything. At first, an orange, peeled and quartered, flares like a tulip on a Wedgwood plate. Anything can happen. Outside, the sun has rolled up her rugs and night-strewn salt across the sky. My heart is humming a tune I haven't heard in years. Quiet's cool flesh, let's sniff and eat it. There are ways to make of the moment a topiary, so the pleasures in walking through. This one is called Blessing the Boats. At St. Mary's, may the tide that is entering even now the lip of our understanding carry you out, beyond the face of fear. May you kiss the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love your back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you in your innocence sail through this to that.